Now on Sunrise and streaming on CrossroadsToday.com, early voting continues in Victoria. We'll tell you what one association is telling residents about a ballot item. And a new warning about what could happen in the U.S. with the measles virus. Plus, what President Trump is saying about the war in Ukraine.
And it's been a warm week all week, and it's going to continue to be warm going into this weekend. But if that's not for you, we may have a slight weather pattern change with rain chances next week. All that in the weather coming up.
You're watching 25 News Now Sunrise. Good morning, Crossroads, and happy Friday, Parker's favorite day of the week.
Most people's favorite day of the week. A little correction there, because it's a weekend time and we got lots to look forward to, don't we?
Yes, a lot to look forward to, except are the temperatures going to cool down with any of this rain?
No.
It's going to be a hot shower outside.
Yeah, if we get any kind of rain today, it'll probably be like a warm rain because it's going to stay warm and the upper atmosphere is already kind of warm itself. But we're going to look at all that later on Sunrise, because first things first, if you're tuning in with us on your fantastic Friday, you're looking live in Victoria. We are starting out the day a little bit foggy. You can actually see some of that here on the screen. That's why the camera looks up here a little bit blurry. We're dealing with a very light layer of patchy fog right now in Victoria. 72 is what we're starting out for the air temperature, but that whopping high is 72 dew point, matching the temperature is what's bringing us the 100% humidity, which is why we have patchy fog around the Crossroads. And looking at your visibility map, you can see it's kind of scattered and patchy around the areas this morning. So just make sure to be extra careful if y'all going to be hitting the roads this morning. Otherwise, definitely don't need a jacket. It's nice and warm still. Lots of low mid-70s, even upper 70s along the immediate coast next to that warm Gulf water. And the rest of Texas is following suit with temperatures 60s and 70s. So if you send your kiddos at the door, no need for a jacket or an umbrella today. We might have a few spotty chances for rain, but we'll look at all that coming up next.
The Texas Education Agency has released the 2022 through 2023 school ratings, which were held up in court for 2 years. Industrial ISD is the only district in the Crossroads to earn an A rating. There are 10 local districts with a B rating for the 22-23 academic year. 5 area school districts earned a C rating, and as we reported on Tuesday, Victoria ISD has a D rating along with Bloomington ISD and Wharton ISD. In Victoria, voters will also decide on a venue tax that would fund a portion of revenue needed for community center renovations. If passed, the venue tax will create a new 5% vehicle rental tax and raise the hotel occupancy tax from 7 to 9%. The renovations to the community center would include a new event arena and upgrades to the existing building. This week, the American Car Rental Association sent out a mailer encouraging people to vote no on this proposition, saying it raises unnecessary funds for vanity projects and does nothing for roads or public safety. Victoria voters will also decide the mayoral election and 2 Victoria ISD board seats. Bloomington residents will be voting whether or not to incorporate the town. To see a list of all local races, go to CrossroadsToday.com. Bloomington residents are urging each other to vote in this upcoming election. What's at stake is the incorporation of the town. At a meeting Thursday night, supporters stressed if incorporation passes, there will not be any new property taxes added and there won't be restrictions on livestock. Community advocate Kim McGill says this would give the community an opportunity to fix their streets and have their own leadership.
I think people need to come out and vote. It's very important. Every vote matters. This is a big deal for Bloomington, and people need to come out and vote so that we can do better things for our community.
Early voting is underway on Monday and Tuesday. Bloomington voters can cast their ballots early at the Volunteer Fire Department. 19-year-old Joseph Kling has been arrested in connection to a massive wildfire burning in Ocean County, New Jersey. The fire burned more than 15,000 acres, forcing thousands of evacuations at one point, and residents were able to return to their homes after the evacuation order was lifted Wednesday. Officials say the fire continues to threaten 4 structures and is only 50% contained. A new study shows measles could become an endemic if the U.S. if vaccination rates don't improve. That's despite its declared elimination in 2000. Over a 25-year period, the researchers project almost 900,000 measles cases if rates stay the same. They forecast about 11 million if vaccinations decline 10%, and more than 51 million if they drop by half. Vaccination rates are down in the U.S. since the COVID-19 pandemic. The CDC reports outbreaks in West Texas and surrounding states, with some cases in other areas. Now to the latest on the war in Ukraine after the biggest strike on the country since the start of the war. President Trump now calling on Vladimir Putin to stop.
This morning, rescue operations are still underway after the deadliest attack on Ukraine in nearly a year. Russia launching deadly strikes on the country's capital city of Kyiv early Thursday, prompting President Trump to send Vladimir Putin a direct message on social media, asking him to stop.
I didn't like last night. I wasn't happy with it. And we're in the midst of talking peace, and missiles were fired.
The strikes come hours after President Trump criticized President Zelensky for rejecting a peace proposal that would force Ukraine to give up Crimea and other territories seized by Russia. Critics of the administration's plan say the deal heavily favors Russia and would also prevent Ukraine from joining NATO. Zelensky responding, saying, quote, "There must be real pressure on Russia to stop this. Even in the midst of international diplomatic efforts to end the war, Russia continues killing civilians. That means Putin is not afraid." And going on to say, "We will negotiate, we will not surrender." During an Oval Office meeting, Trump was asked about what concessions Russia would need to make after they invaded Ukraine.
Stopping the war, stopping taking the whole country. Pretty big concession.
In the eyes of President Zelensky, that would allow Russia to keep Ukrainian land it seized illegally when it started the war. The mayor of Kyiv declared today a day of mourning to honor the victims of the attack on the capital. Nicole D'Antonio, ABC News, Washington.
And breaking this morning, a Russian military official was killed in a car explosion near the Moscow region. Lieutenant General Yaroslav Moskalia, deputy head of the main operational department in the general staff of the Russian armed forces, was killed by an explosive device placed in his car. No possible suspects are mentioned at this time. His death comes a day after Russia launched a deadly attack on Ukraine, killing 12 people in its biggest attack since the start of the war. Today, U.S. Envoy Steve Witkoff is in Moscow and is expected to meet with Vladimir Putin for the 4th time this year. New additions are now on the president's official merchandise website. They include hats and t-shirts that say Trump 2028. The shirt also says rewrite the rules. Those are references to the third term Trump has teased he may seek. Of course, the Constitution strictly forbids a president from being elected to the White House more than twice. But Trump did say last month there are methods which you could do it. He didn't say what those were. Remember, follow us on YouTube, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click that notification bell. The time is now 6:38 on our Friday morning. Here's a look at what's coming up next on 25 News Now Sunrise. A new lifeline for community members in crisis opens its doors. How Midcoast Family Services is expanding their mission to help those who need it the most.
Final preparations underway here for the Pope's funeral on Saturday. I'm ABC's Inez de la Cuetara at the Vatican, and I'll have all the latest coming up.
And also coming up next after the break in the short-term forecast, you heard me say it'll be another warm day, and actually all across Texas. So coming up next, I'll tell you just how warm I think it'll be near you.
All right, it's time to celebrate some birthdays. Happy birthday to Daniel. Happy 11th birthday to our grandson, Daniel. We love you, and we're so proud of you.
Happy birthday, Daniel. And also happy birthday to Kyler. Happy birthday, Kyler. Have a wonderful day, son. Love you from Mom, Dad, and your brothers.
Happy birthday to Joel. Happy 8th birthday. We love you so much. Hope you have an amazing weekend. Love Mom, Dad, and Addison.
Oh, look at that sweet picture. Happy birthday, Joel. And Oscar winner Al Pacino is turning 85 today. A big ol' happy birthday to Mr. Al. And to see your birthday wish live on 25 News Now Sunrise, just head on over to crossroadstoday.com. Click the drop-down menu, then click the Home tab, and then you'll see Submit Your Birthday Photo. And I want to guess, Al Pacino is in Scarface, correct?
Oh, Parker, I'm going to forgive you on that
Okay.
one. Yes, Parker.
Okay, just making sure.
You're showing your age, Parker. It's okay, though. It's good that you're young. And the time is now, it's just about 6:18 on our Friday morning. Happy birthday if you're celebrating one today, or maybe you're celebrating one this weekend.
That's right, over the weekend. Happy birthday. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Well, good morning, Crossroads, and happy Friday. You look alive and cloudy, warm, and humid Cuero. We're starting at the day at a nice warm 71, but the humidity at 2 degrees off, still at that very whopping high 69 degrees, is bringing us that high humidity of 95%, which is enough to see a little bit of fog. And if I step back, you can see way out in the distance, just over the tops of the trees, there is that light layer of fog, so please be careful if you're going to be traveling this morning and if you see any denser fog. But if you do see any fog this morning, like I said, it should be pretty light, and that'll burn off just like it usually does in the morning time, somewhere between 8 to 8:30, and it'll burn off to mostly cloudy skies in the morning time. But also today, for your Friday, we also have a very low 20% chance of rain, bumped up from the 10% that I had forecast yesterday. And that's going to be for maybe a few spotty showers sometime between 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. today. I think that's the time range for when we might see that 20% chance. And I'm going to go ahead and say I don't think it's going to look like this. This is the high resolution rapid refresh models idea guesstimate for what they think is going to happen today. I don't think it's going to look that scattered, but like I said, rain activity should cut off around 3 or 4 p.m. with partly cloudy skies coming in right behind it, bringing us another warm day today, because at noontime already in the low 80s, and in the afternoon it's another day in the mid 80s. I'm thinking 86 in Victoria, 86 Cuero, and about 83 today in Port Lavaca, and the rest of Texas is warm as well. Lots of 80s across the state, maybe even 90 along the Rio Grande. But for us in the Crossroads, we are going to continue having the high humidity, bringing us heat indices near 90, so continue to be hydrated next several days with more heat to come before rain chances are here next week, and that's coming up next.
Today is the final day of Pope Francis lying in state. Hundreds of thousands of people are expected to attend his funeral tomorrow.
With just hours remaining until Pope Francis's funeral, the Vatican is preparing to seal his casket later today. Tens of thousands of mourners filed through St. Peter's Basilica to pay their respects.
Just think it's incredible to be here and to experience it with them.
This emotional moment, as an 81-year-old nun and close friend of the late Pope was allowed to break protocol and enter an area reserved for male clergy to mourn her friend. The outpouring of grief has been immense, but not without controversy. Some in the crowd have been taking selfies with the Pope's body, sparking outrage. More than 200,000 people are expected to attend tomorrow's funeral. Always a champion of the poor, the Vatican says a group of people in need will be there on the steps to welcome Francis's casket at his final resting place, the Basilica of St. Mary Major in Rome. With the conclave set to start as early as May 5th, questions over whether the new pope will take the church in a more conservative direction. Francis was praised for his compassion, but his question, who am I to judge, when discussing gay priests, frustrated some conservatives.
To me, that was very disheartening, because he has the keys of the kingdom as Pope. He is to judge. It's not an easy role.
Some church observers believe the conclave will elect a more moderate successor. One expert saying Pope Francis tended to cause heartburn. Many of the cardinals want someone who is less disruptive.
And security is a big concern for tomorrow's funeral, with over 50 heads of state expected to attend, including President Trump. And the funeral procession will travel through the busy streets of Rome. Inez de la Cuetara, ABC News at the Vatican.
And that leads us to your viewer poll. We want to know, do you plan to watch the Pope's funeral? 52% of you say yes, and 48% of you say no. Thank you for taking part in today's viewer poll. A big step forward in supporting those in need. Midcoast Family Services officially opened the doors to a new resource hub Thursday. Leaders and community members stood side by side as Midcoast Family Services cut the ribbon to their new resource hub. The space is designed to bring dignity and practical help to those who need it the most. Midcoast Family Services says this isn't just a building, but an extension of their mission.
Our ultimate goal is to help people get housed. Nobody should be unhoused. But in the interim, our hope is that we can make life a little bit easier. I don't see us saying no to anybody who comes in. If they come in and they need a shower, we're not going to check their ID and see where they're living.
Midcoast Family Services says this resource hub is open to anyone, no questions, no qualifications. The time is now 6:44 on our Friday morning, still to come on Sunrise. Major changes coming for federal workers. The president signs an executive order transforming how agencies evaluate employees.
Well, good morning, Crossroads. I'm sure a lot of y'all saw the 7-day forecast a few moments ago, and you saw lots more warm weather coming our way for the next several days. Also breezy weather to accompany it, bringing us some humidity at the same time. But rain chances, we got to talk about that here in a second because that's coming back next week. But in the meantime, warm weather will ensue. We're looking for a high of about 86 today, I'm thinking, in Victoria, which is right around where we should be. 82 is our average for April 25th this time of year, and our record this time of year is 96 degrees, set way back in 1932. But look at this. In the month of April, this April 2025, we've already received 1.25 inches of rain, which is 1 inch under where we should be about this time of year. But today we have a 20% chance to maybe see a couple more spotty showers to add on top of that. And I also want to say that a good majority of that 1.25 inches came just 2 mornings ago with that big rain out with that outflow banner that passes through. But with a lot of rainwater still in the soil right now, that's going to bring us some high humidity over the next several days with a lot of that evaporating into the atmosphere. But also when you couple those two things together, rainwater in the soil and humidity high, we have mosquitoes, and that's going to lead me to today's weather poll. Today I ask you, have you seen any mosquitoes recently? It looks like majority of y'all, 80%, are still saying yes. And do you already have bites? Frowny face. 20% of y'all are still saying yes, but no bites yet. And it looks like none of y'all are saying you haven't seen any, which is not good news. But thank y'all so much for voting on today's weather poll. For future weather polls, go to crossroadstoday.com/vote-weather to participate, and I'll always read those answers on the Sunrise Show. But humidity, not going to be very nice to us over the next several days. That's going to bring us some high heat indices near 90, maybe even low mid-90s for some going into next week. But it's going to bring us more mosquito weather. Looking at mosquito forecast, we're just going to say the risk is very high next several days. So make sure that y'all are applying that bug spray. But temperatures all across the state, it's going to be warm this weekend until we get a pattern change next week as a low system will come off California, bringing us rain chances for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of next week. All of that coming up later on Sunrise.
Thursday, President Donald Trump signed an executive order overhauling how federal agencies evaluate trial period employees. The order allows the Office of Personnel Management to reform employee probation rules and set up an appeals process for those fired. It also requires agencies to certify that an employee's permanent appointment serves the public interest. This executive order replaces previous regulations that limited agency discretion. China appears to have rolled back retaliatory tariffs on some semiconductors made in the U.S. Chinese authorities have not confirmed the exemptions publicly, but the import agencies found out about them late Thursday. On April 12, China raised its reciprocal tariffs to 125% for all goods originating from the U.S. It was in response to the president's move to hike levies on Chinese goods to 145%. Still to come on Sunrise, news to know before you go. From Capitol Hill to a prison cell, former Congressman George Santos faces a judge today for sentencing. A federal judge will sentence the disgraced former Congressman George Santos today. Under a plea deal, he'll get at least 2 years in prison. Santos became famous for lying about his work history, education, and even religion when he ran for Congress in 2022. Santos later admitted to campaign finance fraud and lying to Congress. His conviction last year is for wire fraud and identity theft. The U.S. Coast Guard offloaded more than $200 million of seized drugs at a port in San Diego Thursday. The nearly 19,000 pounds of cocaine was seized by the Coast Guard Cutter Kimball between February and April. According to the Coast Guard, the drugs were seized in 6 separate busts off the coast of Mexico and Central and South America. The Coast Guard says busts like those are bolstered by help from the Mexican Navy and other international partners. A reminder, early voting is underway. In Victoria County, you can vote early at the Dr. Petty Dotson Public Health Center today from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or Monday and Tuesday of next week, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And the Bloomington Volunteer Fire Department will also hold an early voting site on Monday and Tuesday. Financial hardships shutter an East Texas hospital 14 months after reopening. You can read this story by the Texas Tribune on crossroadstoday.com. And now let's get a final look at our forecast with Parker.
Thank you, Carolina. Good morning, Crossroads, and happy Friday. It's weekend time, y'all. Looking live in Port Lavaca, starting out the day nice and cloudy. Most of us, that is, mostly cloudy. But we got another warm and humid one out there right now. We're looking at 76 is what the temperature is in Port Lavaca, but we got to talk about that dew point. This is something y'all would see in midsummer. 75 is the dew point. That means the air can contain a lot of water vapor right now. And that's bringing us a high humidity of 97%. But for today in Port Lavaca, looking for another warm day with a warm morning. 83, I'm thinking, for the high today. Underneath, generally decreasing cloud cover down to partly cloudy and breezy winds gusting up to 25. Victoria, about the same thing, thinking 86, but a little bit warmer. And about the same for all that in Cuero. I'm thinking 86 for today. But go ahead and get used to that warmth, because for the next several days, it's going to be here. We're looking at highs sticking in the mid-upper 80s next several days with some partly cloudy skies and breezy winds. And then we got a 20% chance of rain between 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. today, maybe a few spotty showers, and then rain chances finally picking up yet again for the latter half of next week.
A special note from us this morning at KVUE TV and our parent company, Morgan Murphy Media. We are sad to report our longtime former president and CEO, Elizabeth Murphy Burns, has died. She was a pioneering figure in American broadcasting, leading this family-run company for the past 43 years. Mark Kane has more on our leader, mentor, and friend.
Born into the media business, it was not uncommon for Elizabeth Murphy Burns to rub elbows with politicians and entertainers like Bob Hope. After all, her grandfather founded the influential Superior Evening Telegram in 1890. She began her career in media at the age of 14, selling classified ads for the family-run newspaper. After attending the University of Arizona, she entered the field of broadcasting. By the age of 25, she owned and operated a radio station. She later rejoined her family's management team, and in 1982 became vice president of what would become Morgan Murphy Media. Under Liz's leadership, the newspaper business her grandfather started and her father expanded grew to include broadcast stations in 8 TV markets, 17 radio stations, a digital agency, and a monthly magazine. Liz Burns has been a pioneer for women in broadcasting, serving as the first woman on the CBS Affiliates Board and one of the first women elected to the NAB Board.
I hope that I made it easier for women to come after me. Because we'd worked out the kinks, and so when the women came along the line, the guys were used to me, and so I hope that's a gift I've left.
An early advocate for the transition from analog to high definition, she told a Senate congressional hearing that cable companies should be required to carry digital broadcast signals.
The transition to digital television will only succeed if the early adopters can get their local DTV stations over cable and have assurance that DTV sets will operate with digital cable systems and other devices.
Her influence extended internationally. She was part of the delegation for the second Bush administration to promote independent news media in Russia, collaborating with Russian media executives to foster journalistic integrity. In 2018, she was among those honored by the Library of American Broadcasting Foundation's Giants of Broadcasting and Electronic Arts Awards.
I and my family take what we do very seriously. Being an integral part of our communities to inform, educate, and entertain viewers on any platform that they want to watch us on, and being the one they trust and turn to, what a responsibility.
It's a prestigious award with illustrious fellow honorees. All have made significant contributions to the broadcasting industry. But Liz Burns was recognized for both her national leadership in broadcasting as well as her commitment to local broadcasting and the unique relationship local broadcasters have with the communities they serve.
Among those other honorees at that luncheon, radio and TV personality Ryan Seacrest.
One of the honorees, her name is Elizabeth Murphy Burns, right? So
she was amazing because she admitted out loud that she's the reason that we have to suffer through
HD TV. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah, HD TV. You know how we look. You know how you can see our wrinkles now? She's responsible for that. She created that technology, a real pioneer of the business. She's a lovely, true pioneer, and she owns local television stations. And she's doing her speech, and she's charming, and she's smart, and she's funny.
Liz and her husband Richard have spent the past few years in Arizona, helping shape the next generation of journalists at Arizona State University's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, dedicating its largest teaching space in honor of the couple, a 141-seat technologically advanced classroom. Elizabeth Murphy Burns' legacy is one of innovation, leadership, and an unwavering commitment to public service and to her family, including her 5 grandchildren.
this industry has been very good to me and my family. And you need to give back, and you need to set an example, because what you're doing is what should be focused on. It's the act, not the person. We enlighten, educate, entertain, and have fun doing it. If you don't have fun, you aren't going to be good at it. So, and I think we're very good at it.
Elizabeth Murphy Burns was 79 years old.